deal there of me losing my front fender late in the race. This is my first time racing the adventure class at KXCR.
600 cc's or larger. Weighing in is generally 400 pounds or greater.
So starting out here, I got Andy on his T7 Yamaha to my right. And there's about 7 bikes in our class, all of them electric start except me. There's a DR650 on my left, and there was an XR600R further left, not in my screen. There's an AJP PR7 adventure bike who ended up winning up ahead there. There's Drew on his Triumph Scrambler directly in front of me. And I think that pretty much covers the field there. I'm on a 1993 Honda XR600R. Pretty much a bone stock bike. It had rained the day before, so this first lap is pretty sketchy. You can see Drew and I are both kind of struggling with the slippery situation. But as the race progresses, it does tack up a lot better. Things speed up. So what I decided to do is, after I get through this first little section here that takes us up to the start, I'm going to cut over to my lap 4, and I'll tell you when I do that. But yeah, I'm definitely struggling here. Hadn't ridden the bike in any type of conditions like this prior to. So I'm going to cut up to lap 4 right here. So this is my lap 4. Things are in a lot better condition. I'm getting used to the bike, and I'm getting used to the course. Even having said that, it was pretty much a first and second gear race for me, and probably 80% in first gear. The thing is geared down a little bit. I did a 1348 on it, but it acts like it needs about a 1350 maybe to be more ideal for these conditions. As far as bike setup and stuff, like I said, it's pretty much a bone stock bike. As far as the engine and transmission, I just kind of went through everything, made sure it worked, rode it around my neighborhood and my yard, make sure everything was going to work. You know, fresh spark plug, fresh filter, fresh oil. But I'd never had it on a trail before this race. The bike does kickstart pretty easy, except for if you tip it over, and I did tip it over one time, I think on my second or third lap. And I guess I need to practice starting after a tip over, because nothing I did seemed to be the right thing. It took a while to get it started. But otherwise, it's a kind of a one-kick bike. I really liked it. For tire selection, with the XR being a 21 front, 18 rear, I had a lot of options, but what I did was just use some tires that had been on my Huskies, some used tires just to get started here. So the front, I think, was on that Brock Hepler 450 I bought. It was a Kenda Washigel 2. It was an older tire, but it looked like it was in really good shape. So I used it, and I mean, it really was fine. With these conditions, I mean, the front tire wasn't super critical. It didn't clog up or anything. And then on the rear, I used an older M5B I had raced before on my TE300 that is like a 130 80/18. It's a little bit rounded off on the edges, but anybody who runs an M5B knows, you know, with those deep lugs, you really can't go wrong in muddy conditions with it. It's a really good mud tire, so I think that helped me out. I ran about 10 pounds in the front and 8 in the back with tubes. Other than that, I just put handlebar risers on the bike and full wraparound hand guards and a skid plate. I've got a Chinese skid plate for $75 or something like that, which I noticed after the end of the race basically just act as a shovel to scoop up mud. There must have been 20 pounds of mud. I think they commonized the skid plate that they sell online with the 650, and the 650 is a wider engine than the 600 engine, so there's like 2 inches of excess skid plate hanging out the sides, and all it does is just carry mud with you. So I did kind of have the impression that my front forks were set up too soft, and I probably wasn't helped by the fact of all that extra mud I was carrying along. I just tried to run a smooth race with this bike. I knew if I tipped it over, I was going to have trouble. And you know, if I killed it, I might not be in the ideal situation to restart it. So I had the idle kind of set high and just tried to keep it upright, which really wasn't too much of a problem. It's interesting riding a heavy bike like this in these type of conditions. So one advantage of it is that it just kind of carries well, like the inertia of it. So if you give it a little bit of a blip, you know, before an obstacle, just the weight and inertia of the bike will carry you right on through, especially with that soft suspension. Nothing really, you know, hangs it up or makes the bike come to an abrupt start. So in that sense, it wasn't like it was wanting to die or, you know, flame out like some of the big 4-strokes do. But the XR600 doesn't really flame out at all. I wish I could have got it more into second gear. I just wasn't comfortable in these conditions like this, being in second, and I did have a fear of killing it. I think the bike would lug okay in second. I think if I had a gear change, like I discussed earlier, it would be even more happy with lugging. But as it was, I just avoided second gear unless I really got some wide open run in front of me. I haven't mentioned it yet, but this is Russell Creek, which I've raced at several times before, both KXCR and MSXC. It's always a good time at Russell Creek, having a variety of terrain with single track and then some wide open, and then, you know, sometimes they put us on the motocross track, as you'll see here in a couple minutes. But it's just a good place to ride. We'll say that it's always got roots, so if you don't like roots, you're not going to like Russell Creek. But that's just kind of the case when you race in Kentucky. I also raced the noon race on the Husky, and I did run gummies on the Husky at the noon race, and I was glad I did. If you really wanted to hold a faster pace on a lighter weight bike, the gummies, and when I say gummies, I ran an Ibex in the back and a fatty cheater up front, and that was kind of perfect for the afternoon race. But honestly, these tires that I ran here in the morning race on this bike were just fine. I really love opening up the 600, man. It just purrs. It's such a great engine, really. I'm no Scott Summers, and this isn't really a Scott Summers setup 600, but I did really like it. It suited me well. It's a tall bike. so it's really not for shorter riders, but it fit me well. The engine was just so smooth. Super soupy area here. So yeah, I had it figured. I was one of the lighter weight bikes in the lineup, but I was the only Kickstart bike, and I was by far the oldest bike. This bike's 30 years old, and I'm pretty sure I was the oldest rider and probably the heaviest rider. So all things considered, I think it was a pretty fair lineup. First couple laps, I was showing in 4th place, and I think by about this point in time, I'm in 2nd, and I just held 2nd until the end of the race. I think I got 6 or 7 laps total, and that AJP bike I mentioned got 1 more lap than I did. He was really doing well. That's a really interesting bike if you look at the specs. They're not real common in North America. I can only find one dealer, maybe out in Arizona, that sold them. But I felt like the XR was a great old bike. I mean, yeah, it would have been nice to have electric start, but you just got to keep it upright, and that's not a big deal. So round 4 is going to be in Batesville, Kentucky, and it's going to be a payout race for the adventure class. So I'm guessing that everybody's going to come out of the woodwork for that one. We're going to have a lot bigger row, maybe a lot more competition, maybe some KLRs. Who knows? But I'm going to use this time in between now and then to dial in this bike now that I know kind of how it feels on a race course. So with that, hope everybody enjoyed the video. It was a great time. I'm liking the adventure class. Later.